2024 is a big year for US politics, and we are almost exactly 5 months away from the chaos of a presidential election. With this, there will be many big promises of new policy ideas and legislative ideas as well. By harnessing the power of AI, policymakers will be more capable of creating legislation that will build upon previous policy data in a way that will create a system that will effectively pinpoint the needs of our constituents. My partner Sam and I will be speaking about a process that will advocate for the revolutionization of the public policy industry in a way that we have never seen done before. Explained by Rebecca Morton, legislative inefficiency remains a controversial topic in American politics and may occur when the level representation provided by a district does not maximize the social welfare of all constituents within the district. This then promotes the need for a system that will prioritize swiftness and promote efficiency. So without the maximization of legislation, we will unfortunately lose the ability to have an effective way to ensure that all of these policies are being passed in a timely manner, which is extremely important because these delays in legislation will cause more harm when addressing these urgent issues such as economic crises or public health emergencies. Voermans and his team of researchers argue that legislators oftentimes compromise the speed of policymaking due to the deliberation and the constant switching back and forth between these different versions in order to make sure that they are near perfect in every single way. Similarly, Patton and his two researchers explained that manually analyzing this data to accurately predict these future policy patterns is extremely time consuming and has a big potential to create human error. Speculation and uncertainty of these proposed legislations may lead to a higher likelihood of uninformed decisions being made in the policymaking process, which may lead to counterproductive or ineffective laws or policies. Philip Schroeder explains that this uninformed decision making will be made by policymakers who are uninterested in compromising their ideals or their agenda, even if it means that the public does not approve. With that being said, this combined with the lack of certainty of how a law will be perceived by our country after it's been passed poses a big threat to our legislative system due to its lack of prioritization of policies that will effectively reflect that of what our people are wanting, which will lead to the loss of our people's trust. It doesn't come as much of a shocker to anyone that our current system is not only dated, but lacks transparency and is extremely time consuming.
We have devised an AI-based tool to provide additional insight into potential policy decisions that is both swift and effective. This tool will compare proposed legislation and the population it is intended for to previously passed legislation on similar populations. This will include many different types of data, some of which will include census data, health data, legislative data, economic data, education data, and big data. For those of you who do not know what big data is, this is the type of data that's collected when you use the internet by all different types of companies. This is largely what is used with targeted advertisements and other things like that, where they'll learn little bits about users and will be able to find more accurately what is relevant to them and what they're looking for. Ashford and her team have found that this type of data, this big data, is incredibly helpful in reducing bias. In our traditional survey and data collection methods, we have many sources of bias, whether that be that a lot of people won't answer at all, or that they will change their answer when asked, which is response bias. these can vastly skew what results we get. These are especially issues on things like the census, with different populations who don't really want to be recorded by these government agencies. While big data does have a lot of privacy concerns, we are planning on mitigating those as much as possible by using a method devised by Mashadi to protect user privacy of these big data sources. This is intended to remove personal identifiers while still retaining pieces of the data collected that are important to the integrity of the data itself. With these trends that we're able to find with all these different types of data, we should be able to better predict the outcome of different pieces of legislation. This comparison should remove as much guesswork as possible from the lawmaking process by comparing similar populations, or even just providing information about the population being studied. AI tools along this same general idea have been found to be incredibly helpful with socioeconomic planning already by Mezhov and Kryushkin from Altai State University in Russia. And this new tool should allow for far better research on legislation within the time constraints that are present in legislative sessions and other things similar to that. With this tool, lawmakers can still make informed decisions on policy based on real data while meeting their deadlines. Because this data is far more centralized than other types, it should be much easier and much faster to use. Instead of having a whole bunch of different sources of data that what people have to flip between and see if they can draw connections between, this tool will do it in a much faster manner. Along with this, it has the benefit of being less partisan than other data that is currently being provided to legislative bodies. Most of the data provided to our legislative bodies currently is from different lobbying organizations who are trying to support their specific stance on things, and can be accurate data while still being from a very biased angle that can skew what it really means. Crowley and his team at Princeton were able to find that policymakers are very willing and very happy to use data and research when it is provided and when a relationship is established. While it would be impractical to assume that lawmakers would learn how to use an advanced tool like this, this tool would be used by more of a data scientist who would be asked questions by our legislators and would be able to get them answers far more quickly than a traditional data scientist approach. By speeding up this data analysis, we should be able to achieve a positive change faster than ever before. But before we can begin making these new policies with our provided research, this new AI tool must be adopted.
Efficiency, swiftness, and certainty are all strengths that can be achieved with AI in legislation. By creating an up-to-date system, we will finally be able to experience and capitalize on the process of policymaking. By creating these policies that accurately represent our nation, we should expect to have a system that is much easier than it currently is. So it is important that we choose AI and witness the greatness that is being withheld from each and every one of us.